Myself, Jacqueline Townsend, I'll be your chairman today. We have 7 items on the agenda, and I don't believe there's any declarations of interest from the panel. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. There are a number of speakers today on the item and on some items. So I'll ask that you keep to the 3 minutes. The 3 minutes will be allowed for the speaking time. There will be a timer, and once that timer goes off, you'll be asked to conclude on that point you're on. If you are multiple speakers on any item, if we could just hear from one, we don't need to hear submission on the same issue. So you can just note that you agree with the speaker before you, but continue with your other submissions. The panel have been provided with written submissions on each item and conducted inspections at their leisure. I'll also ask that everyone pays respect and to each other when they're speaking, and that there are no interruptions. And once you have finished or concluded your submission to the panel, if you could stay online, as the panel members may have questions for you. So if you're asked a question, if you could respond as best as you can. At the conclusion of the public meeting, the panel will consider each application, and the decisions will be put up on Council's website in the near future. So on the first item we have today, which is 74 Victoria Street, Waverley, DA 1652022, modification to alter internal layout. We have registered speakers from the applicant, Shelby Griffiths and Anson Lee, both architects. Are you there, Shelby and Anson?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Would you like to present, or are you just here to respond to any questions from the panel?
Just here to respond to any questions.
Thank you. Can't seem to see them on the screen. Is that right?
Can you see us?
Oh, they're up there. Okay. Oh, they're there. Great. Thank you. Couldn't see you. Panel, do we have any questions for the architects on this project?
Just one.
Thank you, Graham.
You've seen the report from the council officers?
Yes, we have.
You've seen the condition requiring the rear veranda to be pulled back closer. Do you have a problem with that?
No, we're in support of that.
Okay, thank you. That's all. The only question I had. Thank you.
Other members, any questions? No. Thank you for coming and responding to our questions. And unless you've got anything further, we'll move on to the next item.
Nothing further. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is DA 992023. It's 12A to 14 Wilger Street, Bondi. It's alterations to replace main roof membrane and Unit 11 rooftop stair enclosures and closure and terrace to residential flat building. There was no submissions received. Registered speaker is the architect. Rob, are you there?
Yes, I'm just here to respond to any questions that the panel may have.
Thank you. Panel, are there any questions? No. Thank you for coming. We don't seem to have any questions for you, so you can head off. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move on to the next item on the agenda, item 3, which is 396 Bronte Road, Bronte, DA 50 of 2023, alterations and additions to detached dwelling. A number of submissions were received on this application, and we have registered speakers. Objectors, Celia, Virginia and Jerry Carroll. Are you there?
Yes.
You are? Thank you. So you're ready to go when you're ready.
Sure. My name's Celia. My parents live at 398 Bronte Road. next door to the east of the DA proposal at 396 Bronte Road, and I'm speaking for them today. They made a submission to council highlighting their concerns and making some recommendations to assist managing overlooking and privacy issues. Some of our concerns have been addressed with plan amendments, however, not all of them, and we are left concerned and distressed that this proposal will have an unacceptable impact on our privacy. The council report states in the visual and acoustic privacy section that guidelines have not been complied with. The report states, new windows at the upper floor level are to bedrooms and non-habitable rooms, which are rooms of low use with fewer privacy impacts. No unreasonable privacy impacts upon adjoining properties are anticipated as a result of these windows. This is not accurate. Unacceptable privacy impacts will result. However, minor plan adjustments can alleviate this. The two windows in the upstairs main bedroom, windows 213 and 214, are of clear glass and have a direct view into our living, dining room, main upstairs bedroom and outdoor living areas. The windows proposed are 1 metre away from a wall of north-facing glass, doors and windows onto a private upstairs balcony. We request these 2-bedroom windows be removed as the room's main source of light and ventilation is the north-facing wall of glass adjacent to them. If not, at a minimum, these upper-level bedroom windows need to be obscured or screened. This would be consistent with the amendments in the council's conditions of consent. The 2 large new ground floor living area windows, windows 110 and 111, are required to be screened or of obscure glass. The report points out that this is not an onerous requirement as they are secondary windows, with the main light source being via glazed doors on the rear elevation. This is exactly the same position as in the main bedroom upstairs. Ideally, we request the removal of the 4 windows facing our living areas and main bedrooms, windows 110, 111, 213 and 214. We would like to highlight another matter that has a negative impact on our property, the balcony depth at ground level. In the report, section 1.5, background, it states the application was deferred on 18th of May to address the following matters. Point 2, design changes. The proposed rear ground level deck has a depth of 4 metres and an area of 21 square metres, exceeding the DCP maximum controls. A variation to the maximum controls of the DCP may be acceptable in this area, provided that the depth is reduced to 2.5 metres. The scheme as amended has a balcony area of 23 square metres and most significantly is still 4 metres deep. That is, no changes as requested have been made and the balcony is actually larger. The scale, depth and length of this elevated ground floor deck has a significant impact on privacy for our rear yard and pool. We request this design change, a balcony depth of 2.5 metres, as stated in the original council recommendations and consistent with the DCP, be implemented in council's condition of consent. Rear setback. Figure 7 in the report shows an aerial photo of the 3 properties to the east and west of 396 Bronte Road and states the predominant building line can be considered to be the 3 adjacent neighbours on either side. Bronte Road changes direction by approximately 40 degrees at the western edge of 394 Bronte Road. Consequently, all the rear setbacks of the 3 properties to the west of 396 Bronte Road reflect this change of direction and project considerably further to the north.
Celia,
yes.
so can I just interrupt? Your time has come to an end. So is there one last point you'd like to make to wrap it up, please?
Yes, so basically the rear setback of the proposal extends 8 metres beyond the rear setback of 398 Bronte Road and extends 12 metres beyond the rear setback at ground floor level. So I guess what we're requesting is that even at the upper level, like a 2 metre setback would improve our amenities significantly, and it responds more consistently to the frontages of the properties immediately to the east, 398, 400, 402, 404, which are set back, more than 8 metres behind the proposed building line of 396. So okay. Thank you for your time. We appreciate the amendments to date that the council's planners have implemented. However, further amendments, which can be conditional to this approval, are warranted to ensure this development's impact, especially in relation to privacy and overlooking, is managed and made more acceptable. Thank you.
Thank you. Panel members, do we have any questions for Celia? No. Could I just get those window numbers from you again? I've got the last.
Yeah. Yeah, so window 110.
Yeah.
Window 111.
Yeah.
Window 213.
Yeah.
And 214.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
And now we have a speaker for the applicant, Anthony Betroth from ABC Planning. You there, Anthony?
G'day, how you going?
Good, thank you.
Thanks very much.
Going to submit or make a submission, or are you going to just here for questions?
I think just like to firstly say thanks to staff for giving us opportunity to amend during the application process. And I think the conditions that have been put on do address the concerns that have been raised. The existing built form does protrude beyond the neighbour's property to the east, but the upper level has been set back as required by council. The conditions which have already been put on do address some of the issues as well in terms of providing for 1.6 high sill heights and opaque glazing, and that's condition 2, which includes those provisions. Just like to also confirm that the site is in an R3 zone and a flat building could have been put on this site. The built form is quite subservient to the flat building to our west. So I think in the context of the application's setting, what's proposed is actually quite reasonable. It's well below the wall height, below the overall height, and below the FSR. There is an extent of existing mutual overlooking from the balcony of the objector's property to the east and the flat building to the west. So I think it needs to also be considered in that regard, but happy to answer any questions.
Could you just address the concerns around those windows, 110 and 111? I think there's some suggestion, maybe some screening, and also 213, 214.
Yeah, so windows, so I'm on page 167 of council's business paper.
Yeah.
That's condition 2B.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll note that those living rooms 1110 and 111 that'll be fitted with privacy treatment to 1.6.
Sorry, catch that.
Oh, sorry. So Windows 110, oh sorry, 110 and 111. So it's condition 2B2 already has those treatments to Windows 110 and 111.
Great, thank you.
So, and then the deck at the rear has a 1.8 metre screen along its eastern side as well. So that 1.8 is actually quite high in terms of addressing the privacy concerns of the neighbour. The side setback to that property as well, 2.4 metres, which is beyond the 1.5. So in that regard, landscaping and the screening addresses those issues of the rear building line.
Thank you. Any further questions, panel? No? Thank you. Thank you both for coming and making some submissions to the panel on this item.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item 4, 134 Hewitt Street, Bronte, DA 19 of 2023, demolition of the existing dwelling and construction of a new Part 2, Part 3-storey dwelling house, garage, landscaping works and swimming pool. Submissions were received during the exhibition period, and the speakers today are all for the applicant. We've got Anthony, Brian and Frankie. Are you all here? Would like to make a submission to the panel, either of you?
We'll keep it very brief. Thank you.
Thank you.
I am a solicitor. I seek leave, although I'm not making any legal submissions. I'm here in lieu of Mr. Caravanis, the town planner who's overseas and couldn't make it today.
Thank you.
I'm here today also with Mr. Myerson, who's the project architect, and Mr. Kalaitis, who works for Mr. Myerson. We just commend the recommendation of council staff and the conditions attached thereon, and we don't make any submissions with respect to the conditions. This has been a process that's been very open and transparent, and we thank the council staff for that. There are a number of different RFIs that were issued to our client, which we've been given time to respond to and resolve. That's resulted in a building form that's been reduced in size, reduced in excavation, but what's more, we've very closely and carefully considered impact or environmental impacts on adjoining neighbours, including issues of solar access, view loss. We provided for additional information with respect to landscaping, as well as the need for excavated areas for the purposes of services. So you'll see from page 200 to the top of 204, the extent of the communications that have occurred between the parties. So I'm here just to answer any questions, and I might pass it over to Mr. Myers, who might outline the design methodology. Now, he's having some issues with his internet connection, so we'll see how he goes. But he's going to go into design methodology on this site that you'll note in the report has a very steep topography and otherwise has a difficult siting. So there's been a very clear and concise method to try to facilitate the development of a single dwelling on the site. So I might pass on to Mr. Myerson.
Good afternoon, panel. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry. Excuse the noise. I'm yet ready to answer questions, but just the biggest, obviously the biggest thing about the project is that the site is challenging, very steep, and the design that we've landed on eventually and through the process with the council planning assessment officer is consistent with the group of houses in Hewlett Street and also consistent with the adjoining apartment building at number 132 in terms of bulk and scale. The one thing I just want to clarify for the council was not in the report, for the panel, because it's not in the report, regarding the room for services in the basement, which is actually kind of at ground level, but because of the quick rising topography, it becomes part of the what we call the basement. And if I can ask Frankie to just share screen, because the council officers felt the room was quite large, and they put that in the report, but I just wanted to explain to the panel what in fact goes into that room. It's in our drawings and it's in the plan, the main set of plans, but we've also had our services engineers outline exactly what spatial arrangements are needed in that room, and we can just share that very quickly.
Mr. Myerson, we've got the plans in front of us. Can you just tell us what drawing you're referring to?
Okay, it's page 201 of the report, I believe. It's drawing number DA200.
Thank you.
And
we've got that.
That
Yes.
services space, those items in that services space are actually given to us by the engineers. Includes Tesla batteries, distribution board.
We've lost
Vacuum system and
We seem you. I think we've lost.
Sorry, am I back on panel?
Yes, we've got you back. Thank you.
Okay, that's all I need to add. And we don't need to take much more of the panel's time. Thank you.
Did we want clarification on that storage? Could you just, sorry, we lost you when you were explaining the service space.
Okay. I was explaining that the Tesla batteries, electrical distribution boards, I'm sure everyone's aware of what goes into these modern houses these days. Ducted vacuum system and so on. So everything in that room has a place, and there's not much room left over to move around in. And of course, with these installations, you need space in front of each item to service them. The other part that's causing some needed excavation is the need to have the lift and the stairs in the location that they are. It's the only place to put them that does not obstruct the views from the subject site, and doesn't affect the provision of parking, etc. So that's all I want to add to the panel. Thanks.
Thank you. And the third speaker, did you want to, Frankie Kalatis?
He was only here to assist with sharing plans and whatnot, so no need for Mr. Clayton.
Thank you. Panel, do we have any questions of any of the speakers? No? Great. Thank you very much for coming and answering us or making those submissions for us.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the next item, which is item 5, 25 St Thomas Street, Bronte, DA 57 of 2023, demolition and construction of a new 3-storey dwelling, including basement garage, a new swimming pool at rear. There were a number of submissions received on this item, and there's an objector here to speak, Michael Delamata. Are you here, Michael? No? Michael, you online? Do we have Michael? Is he going to come back? Do we know? Yeah, could you just give a call? Thank you. We'll just pause for a few minutes to see whether this speaker is available. I believe Mr. Marta is, Michael is on his way back on to the meeting. So if we could just give you a bit of time to get back on. Did he come through yet? Wonder if he can come through on the phone. I believe we've got Michael online. Is that correct? There you are. Michael, you're just now on. Oh, there you go.
Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. It happens. When you're ready.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, I just wanted to address the issue of 25 St Thomas Street, Bronte, where the property property next door, and I think probably us and the other neighbour most affected by the application. I just wanted to be brief. I actually agree with the report that was put together by the Town Planning Department. My concerns are the roof height. It breaches the 8.5 metre roof height, and based on the pictures done of the loss of views, we have some, I think, iconic views to Tamarama Headland and South Bondi, and about 40% of that view is lost by the where the design breaches the height limit. And I think that could be very easily addressed by some design changes which would have no impact on the applicant, would give an improved design by putting in a hipped roof. It has a parapet around the facade, a box gutter all around that by what it appears, and then it has gable roofs at either end behind that. If they were hipped roofs instead of gabled roofs, it would overcome that problem, the roof height. First floor setback, it doesn't comply with what all our neighbours have done on this side. Makes the building bulky and a bit overbearing. The FSR is exceeded, and with possible even greater chances to be further exceeded, because it has, in the revised drawing, proposed a huge first floor unenclosed terrace area, which was previously enclosed, which to me would be just one section 4.55 application away from getting it enclosed and further exceeding the FSR. The other issue is the excessive excavation. It's always been a major issue for us about this application. There's huge excavation in the basement. It exceeds the code. The applicant's getting 3 cars in there, plus motorbikes, plus storage. Plus it's got a large amount of area for plant and equipment, which is far in excess of what plant and equipment is actually required for a house of this type. And furthermore, the excavation isn't controlled, so that it should be a maximum of 900 millimetres from our boundary, but the plans don't reflect that. So they're my issues, and yeah, we support the town planner's report, and yeah, available if anyone has any questions.
Thank you, Michael. Panel, do we have any questions for Michael? No? Thank you. I'm glad you sorted the IT out. All right.
Yeah, it dropped out just as I was about to get called up. Sorry about that.
Of course it would. Okay, so Emily Wallace and Alison McCabe, both here to speak on behalf of the applicant. Emily?
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to address the panel. I'm Emily Wallace, the project architect, and represent the owner of the property, Drew Burrell. Our planner, Alison McCabe of SJB, was unable to attend today. I have read the report and I understand that the application has been recommended for refusal. I would like the panel to not adopt the recommendation. The key issues identified in the report for the refusal of the application relate to non-compliance with the height and potential impacts arising from the non-compliance in terms of overshadowing and view impact, non-compliance with FSR and the potential impact arising from the non-compliance in terms of amenity, bulk and scale and view impact, and the extent of excavation. I propose to comment briefly on each of these issues in regards to the site context. The alignment of the building both to the street and the rear closely reflect the alignment of numbers 27 and numbers 29 St Thomas Street. The massing of the building also closely reflects the adjoining buildings at number 27 and number 29 St Thomas Street. This is an area undergoing change and existing dwellings will not always remain in the same alignment. As the building as it presents to the street steps down with the topography. There is a steep 4-metre fall across the site. In relation to the height of the building, it is lower than number 27 and slightly higher than number 23. The height is consistent with the scale and the height of the buildings in the street. The area exceeding the height limit is hatched in blue on the roof plan, drawing A005, and is located at the front of the dwelling and comprises 16 square metres of the roof at the pitch. The majority of the building is actually below the 8.5 metre height limit, which is best illustrated in the section AA on drawing A009. This area of the non-compliance does not result in shadow impacts to the lower portion of the windows on the side elevation of number 27 at midwinter. Any shadow impact arises from the wall height, which is marginally higher than the 7 metre requirement and is best illustrated on the south elevation, drawing A008. This results in approximately 600 mil of additional shadowing during midwinter, and a note that over 3/4 of the window face maintains sunlight during the day during midwinter. We can provide the panel with additional documents if required. The windows at number 27 St Thomas Street are within 900 mil of the boundary, where 2-storey development is permitted and are therefore vulnerable to impact. The dwelling at number 27 St Thomas Street continues to meet council requirements of 3 hours of daylight to living areas and private open space. Amenity cannot be said to be unreasonably compromised. The scale of the development is in response to the scale and form of number 27 to St Thomas Street, which notably exceeds the height control at the common boundary with number 25. In respect to views, the views enjoyed from these windows are across a side boundary and are of the suburbs. They cannot be said to be iconic. The views to the water or the land and water interface are not affected. Having regard to the totality of the views enjoyed from number 27, the views impacted are negligible. Given they are across a side boundary, they're also vulnerable and cannot reasonably be expected to be maintained. The non-compliant portion of the roof affects outlook to the sky only. See figure 10 in the report. With regards to the FSR, the non-compliance of the FSR is in the order of 5 square metres. It is incorrect to say that this non-compliance results in excessive bulk and scale or impact when considered in the context of the surrounding development and the form of the existing development. For example,
Emily, sorry, that's your time. Is there just one last point just to wrap up, please?
Yeah, just in regards to excavation, it's acknowledged that it's completely below the footprint of the proposed building, and we're allowing vehicles to enter and leave in a safe forward direction. We acknowledge that there's a mistake in section BB. Excavation is set back between 900 and 1200 millimetres from the boundary. And in conclusion, notwithstanding the fact that the proposal doesn't strictly comply, the building does respond appropriately to its context and it reflects the streetscape of the surrounding buildings.
Thank you. Panel, do we have any questions for Emily? No questions. Thank you very much for addressing. And
thank you.
And you just said Alison McCabe is not here. So
that's right.
The close of that item. Thank you both again for speaking, and we'll move on to the next item, which is item 6. Item 6, which is 15-7 Francis Street, Bondi Beach, DA 161 of 2023, alterations and additions to Unit 15, including conversion of roof void to attic level. There were submissions received on the application, and we have a registered speaker against the recommendation, Jennifer Yorkstein, is that correct? I think you've got yourself on mute. Could you just remove yourself? There should be a button down the bottom, so just
so
Yep, great. Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer.
This is all new to me too, but anyway.
Yes, well, when you're ready, don't rush. You've got 3 minutes.
Okay. So I'm talking about I'm one of the owners, one of the units in this building, and I just want to point out that the previous 2 applications for this demolition and 2-storey build were denied as the plans did not meet building code set by council. The 3rd application is allowing these breaches of the code is a precedent which may be used by other DA applicants. We're fighting an application at the front of our building that wants to exceed lots of limits that you have. Noah's Backpackers beside us is going to be built at this stage. So a very big concern about precedent being set. Also, I know this is a strata issue, but no alterations are allowed to the outside of the building, and a specialist strata lawyer may have to be employed to enforce this by law. Sorry, I'm just going to have to duck off for a second. Is that possible? Hello?
Sorry, yes, just can you be quick?
Yes, I'll be very quick.
Thank you.
Sorry, I am working at the same time.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine.
So sorry. So yes, so what they're proposing to do is actually not allowed by our building code that we have. I'm concerned about the safety and the well-being of the residents with this build. There is only, I don't know, this is a site visit would be good. There's one way in and there's one way out. And this is on the top of the building. All of the tradespeople would have to come use the same stairwells, and I think none of those issues have been addressed, nor has the protection of the walls or the windows or the carpet in there. Nothing's been addressed. It's just that we've been told that it'll be fixed if it's damaged, which I don't see as satisfactory. Also, one of the statements in their submission was the introduction of a new private open space area, which is currently contains no open space. I don't understand that, and I asked for a clarification on that. And the reasons for the refusal of this DA previously was the massing to a building that is currently at its maximum development capacity, and that the proposed works would not maintain or conserve the interwar building. So nothing has changed. The plans have changed slightly, but those two reasons haven't changed. These major renovations are continually described as minor renovations to you and to us on the committee, when in fact it's an actual two-storey complete demolition and a complete two-storey rebuild. This is not the first unit. This is not the only unit that's seeking it. Another unit is also seeking, has come to the strata and seeks to do the same thing. So, you know, I want to know when the maximum development capacity is going to be enforced. You know, that we've already got trouble with parking. You can never get a parking space there, and they have to have skips out the front for an indefinite period. It's a secure building, and we'll have tradespeople coming to and fro for indefinite period.
Great. Okay, Jennifer, thank you. I'll just ask if the panel have any questions. Has any questions? No. Thank you very much. We'll now speak with hear from the applicant, Joshua Grossman. Joshua.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Can't see you, but we can hear you.
Sorry, I had a bit of an embarrassing incident with a screwdriver in my forehead, so I've actually kept the camera off intentionally.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
When you're ready.
Thank you. May I address the complainant, if possible?
Sorry, can you say that again?
May I address the complainant? I have nothing else to add to council's report.
We ask that you address the panel, but you can address some of the concerns that Jennifer raised. If that would be helpful.
Not a problem. So I just wanted to clarify that in relation to the previous applications that were refused, the scope has significantly been amended to be contained wholly within the within the roof void, as opposed to before, where there was essentially a expansion of that roof space, including additional balconies as well. So that footprint has come back considerably to be within that roof void. So other than the roof addition and the addition of that gable to match the two adjoining dwellings, the actual bulk and scale of the building remains as existing. The notion that it is illegal for any works to take place externally on this building, I just need to clarify, is not correct, given that obviously a strata seal has been applied to the application forms and amended bylaws passing the proposed works. So that's not an issue. In terms of the effect and all that sort of stuff on the applicants' lives and the inhabitants of this building, it is inevitable that any building work is going to impact them. So there's not much that can be done about that, except obviously as much mitigation as possible and coordinating with strata and the body corporate about access times within that stairwell and measures to protect the existing building. The applicant also has a civil obligation to repair the building if there's any damage, which is not, not unique to this situation. That would apply in any building work situation. yes, other than that, and me supporting council's report, I'm happy to answer any questions that the panel may have.
Okay, thank you, Joshua. Panel members, do we have any questions? No? Well, thank you, Jennifer and Joshua, for coming and speaking, addressing the panel. We'll now move on to the next item, which is item 7, 56 Campbell Parade, Bondi Beach, DA 367 of 2022. It's a substantial demolition with retention of the front facade and a portion of the side walls and construction of a shop-top housing building. We had a number of submissions received during the exhibition period, and we've got register speaking. John O'Connell, who I know didn't make a submission previously but is here to address the panel today. You here, John?
Yes.
Thank you. You've got 3 minutes and you can start when you're ready.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for also letting me speak at such short notice. My 2 main concerns are the impact that the building is going to have in terms of the light. I'm on the building on the side of the new building. Because it's going up another couple of stories, essentially all the light will disappear. The view will totally disappear. And so will privacy along with that, because the building goes from the front right to the end. And I've noticed also that it extends out further than a previous application I saw, because my deck is right next to it. And at one point, it came out half the side of half the deck, but now it seems to come right to the end of the deck. So essentially, that will also take the view. I would say it would impact view-wise about 80% of what it now has, because I can look on the deck and see across the beach to see what the surf's like. All of that will go, which will have an impact on the price of the property. Also, the other main concern that I have is with construction issues. Just because the building is so close to ours, because it's literally at one point it is actually connected. I'm very nervous being in Bondi, being built on sand, the impact on our building physically. And also because they're building a car park underneath, they're going quite deep. Are there any provisions being made in regards to that kind of impact if the foundations shift, for instance? I mean, maybe a site visit would be appropriate for that as well.
So that's your submission?
Yes.
Thank you. Lee Cosnetta is from LK Planning. You're here, Lee, to speak to this proposal to the panel. Lee? I can see you. Can you hear us, Lee? Oh, there. You're back. Thank you. You're on the screen twice. Thank you. When you're ready, Lee. Can you? We can't hear you. Your sound isn't coming through.
Just moving from one device to another. Can the panel hear me?
Yes, we can now. Thank you.
Thank you. I was able to hear that submission though, so thank you. Thank you, panelists. Firstly, I just want to thank the council officers for the support on this application. As you know, I appear before this panel regularly, and I have to say this report prepared by Joe Somerville with Bridget and Angela's endorsement provides one of the most comprehensive assessments that I've seen. I say that not only because we have a recommendation for approval, but also because what's not in the report is an outline of the dialogue that we had during the process between ourselves and council officers, which was exceptional. The application was formally amended 3 times to address an evolution of concerns and requests that arose from a moving target of the adjoining development of 58 Campbell Parade. That application was lodged at the same time as us. It was amended post-lodgement, immediately appealed to the Land Environment Court as a deemed refusal, further amended without prejudice, and ultimately an amended scheme was supported and an agreement was formed in court. The amendments we've made and the additional information we've provided have resulted in a building that exhibits design excellence and a commitment to the retention of significant original components of the existing building. The clause 4.6 variation to the height standard has been assessed as offering sufficient environmental planning grounds and meets the relevant public interest tests. It's below the height of the neighbouring adjoining property approved in the Land Environment Court, and it's noted that development is well below the FSR standard. We agree with the recommendations in the report to approve this development. We've reviewed all the conditions of consent and agree with them without exception. I have Pat and Wenda, the architects, available online as well, and myself for any questions you might have.
Thank you. Panel, the questions? Thank you. Graham Brown has a question, Lee.
Lee, my understanding was this building is taller than the one that was approved by the Land Environment Court. To the topmost part of either building, I understood that this building was higher by a couple of metres than the one that was approved by the court. Is that correct?
It's higher by a couple of metres than the neighbouring property because of topography across the site. The maximum building height itself is lower on this property than that approved by the Land Environment Court next door by around 0.5 metre. And the expression of that height is in a different location to that approved on the adjoining site. So the neighbouring site had a greater height by around 0.5 metre and a significantly wider expanse of that non-compliance across the front of the site, a significant depth of that non-compliance from front to back of the site, and general compliance for the other level, which was set down. What we have by comparison is a small central section that sits up lower than the adjoining property from a maximum height perspective. And then all the other areas of our building are well below the height limit, including about a floor below the height limit in the back corner. So one of the solar access comments in the report is that we preserve solar access to the neighbouring property. In fact, we've identified a lot of areas where we provide additional solar benefit to the neighbouring property because we're a floor under the height control in relevant parts. So this is more about the redistribution of floor space and height where it has no impact and creating opportunities for greater amenity on neighbouring sites where we can.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? I'll leave that. All right. Thank you very much, both of you coming along and addressing the panel. No more speakers on that item, so we'll move on to close the meeting. I see that there's two people there. Is it, sorry, Patrick, what item were you here to speak on?
I'm the architect for 56 Campbell Parade, Jacqueline. So I was just here to support and answer any questions regarding item 7. So thank you.
Okay, sorry.
That's all right.
Oh, you are there. Sorry, I left you off because you're on the last page. Sorry, did anyone want to have a question, ask a question to Pat or Wenda? They're both the architect on this building. Did you want to speak about the top?
I was happy with the response from Lee, unless there was something else you wish to add.
No, thanks, Graham. I think Lee said it all, and we just endorse the council officer's report recommendation of approval. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. I'll now close the meeting. So thank you all, everyone, for coming. Thank you, staff, for your assistance. And we'll now adjourn and go into deliberation, and the decisions will be available on council's website in the near future. Thank you, everyone.